right, the first three problems that we did, the coefficient in front of x squared was the number 1. So if I look at problem A, this is 1x squared. Problem B is 1x squared. Problem C is 1x squared. This problem is a little different, but I absolutely still can go through and do the completing the square process. So the first thing we need to do is divide everything by 5. Why 5? Because that's the number in front of our quadratic term. So we're going to divide everything by 5. If your first number was 3, you divide by 3. If your first number was 7, you divide by 7. So divide everything by the first number in the problem. You might run into fractions, but that's all right. We'll baby step our way through it. It's no biggie. So 5 divided by 5 is x squared. Well, it's 1, but it's 1x squared. Negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. Bring your x down. 8 divided by 5 gives me a fraction. And 0 divided by 5 is 0. Now that we have divided everything by 5, now the process is just like with the other problems. So we'll go through and we are going to complete the square. So I divided everything by 5. Now it's back into our completing the square world and we can go through. So make sure it's in standard form, x squared, x, and then your number. Step 2, move the c term to the right. So move this term over to the other side. So that's going to give me x squared minus 4x, leave a little space, we got to complete the square, negative 8/5. From here off to the side, as you know by now, we want to complete the square. So I'm going to do those steps over here to the side. Step 1. Step 1, you take half of the middle number. Half of negative 4 is negative 2. Step 2, square that number. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. So 4 is the number that we're adding to both sides of our equation. So we're going to add 4 here, and we're going to add 4 here. Just a note in case you haven't picked up on it yet, the number that you add in your blank should always be positive. So this C term that we add here should always be positive because a negative times a negative is a positive and a positive times a positive is a positive. So just double check and make sure that the number that you're adding to both sides, that should be a positive number. Now we're going to factor. Two numbers that multiply to give me positive 4, add to give me negative 4. So you even know that, and if you don't know that, we got a little shortcut that we discovered. It's always going to be the number 1 and you're completing the square step. So it's going to be x minus 2, x minus 2. I can add these two together. Negative 8/5 plus 4 is 12/5. All right, shorten this into a binomial squared. So it's going to be x minus 2 squared equals 12/5. The opposite of squaring something is to take the square root. So x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 12/5. And our very last step, we're trying to get x by itself. So this is a minus 2 here. We need to add 2 to both sides. That 2 cannot go underneath the square root, and it should not go underneath the square root. So my final answer, x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 12/5. So that is our final answer. And now we know how to complete the square. We got our steps up there to follow. So we have our 8 steps up there to follow. Completing the square works all the time, regardless of the type of problem that you're looking for. You always can rely on completing the square to help you find the solutions to a quadratic equation.